Hi guys, before I end this one, I must actually highlight that whatever things that we have practiced will be reapplied in other logic such as update staff record. We are going to work on update staff record soon, so we need to go and tidy up the code so that we can learn how to go and write code again to provide update staff information. Update staff information is pretty tricky. Right, add record is very simple. Update staff, you have to go and find the correct staff record to update. So more SQL is involved. Now, what kind of code do I need to go and tidy up? You see, inside the page load, I have already got the code to go and prepare the drop-down list. But this is actually some variables that I've used. But you notice that these variables applied are not really following the variable names that I have actually applied inside the module nodes. Okay. So this is actually page 11 inside the module nodes. Maybe in the future I might modify the module nodes so the code may be residing in another page instead of page 11 of this chapter 3, populating data concepts. Now the variables that I've used, such as like in order to go and create a data table variable, it is called getAllDepartment. So inside the video here, I used a page in a book, right? So this one should be getAllDepartment. So I need to go and make the variables much more professional, industrial looking. So I'm actually renaming all the data table variables to getAllDepartment. Now what is next? Oh yes, this one, getAllDepartment. Okay, so this is the part whereby I'm asking the drop down list to refer to this data table. What is stored inside the data table? The data table should store something like this. Okay, the data table will have all these information. All these information are grouped under this variable. Okay, now come back to here. So you notice that I have already binded and all these stuff are done. Okay, right? So I would like to go and double check on the C department manager to see whether the variables here are properly used. Notice that John was used for SQL connection. Well, I was actually trying to go and explain the concept that variable names, these are just variable names, right? So in order to go and make it more appropriate, this one should be connection, right? Connection, because John is connection. So I will just rename John to connection. So this one is also going to be connection, right? Telling the connection to open to the database, telling the connection to close the database. Then after that, what about Maxwell? Maxwell is the command object. So inside the materials, right, this one is actually the command object and this one is actually the command object. Now let's take a look at oh yeah, John still got one here. So this one is called connection. Now let's take a look at another one. So this one is the book. Actually it is a book, but then in order to go and make it better, so this one I'll just call it DS. DS stands for data set. So let me see, data set, yes, and this is data set. Okay, now let's take a look at let me see, Susan. Susan is the AD, right? So did I declare Susan anywhere? Let me see, SQL data adapter Susan, yes. Okay, so this is AD. Then of course all the declared variables should be grouped under a particular section. So this is where I have grouped them, and you notice that inside the how to say okay, you see, inside the module nodes, I normally have the habit of creating a string variable, which is SQL text, in order to go and store the SQL information. Right, it is a good habit not to directly assign the information into the command text property. It should be somewhere here. Then after that, I will just copy the content of the SQL text variable into the command text property. Oops, Susan is still here. Susan is a female, so should be AD. Okay, secretary. Okay, done. So these are the necessary tidying up of codes, and I hope you understand the purpose of the getAllDepartmentData. Right, so I finished tidying up all the necessary code. Now the next thing is that you will notice that, hey, how come the ConnectionString property here is using a connection information, that, and then this one is also using also using the same thing, right? So in other words, let's say that you want to go and copy this project and allow your friend to learn from it. In order for your friend to go and run this project, right, he have to go and keep on modifying the connection string. So sooner or later there will be a lot of places that you need to modify. In the current project right now, already you got 2 to handle, right? One in the C department manager class, another one is inside the C staff manager class. Oh yeah, just now recall that I was tidying up the code inside the getAllDepartmentData method inside the C department manager.cs class. Okay, I forgot to mention that. Okay, now come back to this one here. I need to centralize the location of all these connection strings. So there is this one nice thing called the Web.Config. Web.Config is a text file that helps us to store information that will make our code neater, such as connection string. Okay, so I would like to go and add a new connection string. So I will just find the connection string segment. Notice that there's a connection string section inside the web_config. Ensure that you are working on the experiment data management web project. Okay, so I'll just say add blah 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 and all this stuff, but of course I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to copy and paste. Okay, right, since that one is actually a working sample default code provided by the .NET, which I'm not using it right now. And right now I've added a new connection string, and I'll just put this one as web a connection string. Okay, so I've already created a connection string, and what is the name of this connection string? Web a connection string. What about this one? Right, this connection string property here. Am I going to provide something here? Yes. What am I going to provide? This one. Notice that this is the connection string that I've applied in the getAllDepartmentData. So I'm just going to copy this information and place it inside the connection string property here. But of course, this is not C# environment, so you don't need the 2/. Go back to 1/. Okay, right? If you have /, some of you don't have. Some of you just need to go and provide a computer name. Right? Also can, right? Just that for those who encountered that his database server is actually something in this format, make sure that it only consists of 1/. Okay, now data source, is there another equivalent term for data source? Server also can. What about initial catalog? Is there another term for initial catalog? Database also can. Okay, right, now so I've already provided a new connection string information. It is right now nicely stored inside this web.config. How am I going to use it? Inside my C staff manager and the C department manager. My best friend is always Google. So in other words, I'm actually going to check the Google, and I'm going to check web.config because it has something to do with web.config. Then connection string. Oh yes, connection string. And maybe in ASP.NET. Nice. So in other words, I will just select it. Read connection strings from web.config file. Now this is what I want. I want to read. Oh my god, Microsoft. Okay. So let's see. Oops. Okay, notice that there is some syntax here in order to teach you how to go and read connection string. Was this what we had done just now? Yes, this is what we had done just now. So in other words, I would like to go and start reading it, and notice that this is how it is read, and somehow or the other I might actually need some information. So this one is open web.config blah 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 and all this stuff, and this one is the connection string. Seems okay, a bit chim, but you can try. I can copy this one. I also find that this code here is a bit too much, but well, it's free, right? The developer tried to share, so we just put it in and we will just see how. So in other words, notice that I've already declared a configuration object, and what is the name of this configuration object? Root web config. Then after here, where am I going to read it from? I'm going to read it from my website root. So what is my website root? I don't know. I might as well just put / I see how is it, right? Because I'm not sure myself. So then after that, what about this one? System.configuration, more settings, connection string. Wow, this explanation is cheap. What is this? This is not a string to me, but seems like it is a string again. Okay, never mind. So what I'm going to do is what I'm going to do is that I'm just did I create this one? Let me take a look. Did I create this one? Yes, I've created this one. And how am I going to read it out? So I'll just put connection string. I think this one has something to do with storing the connection string information. So equal to what? Then I come back to this website. It's my first time dealing with this one also, so don't look at me. Look at this website. Oh my, what is this? Okay, now let me see. Oh, this is the reading part. Okay, so I'll just copy this one and I'll just place it inside here, right? Okay, now for those who are giving up in copying and paste, you might just pause here and take a look what I have typed and follow it through. So what is the name of the connection string that I've used? I've used Web.A connection string, right? So I will just use Web.A connection string here. Okay, then after that, what am I going to do next? Right, definitely this one is going to be replaced. It is going to be replaced by constring dot connection string. Okay, done. Right, so is this how it's going to be? Now notice that I'm working on the getAllDepartmentData, right? And in other words, that if this is really working, right, by right, if this is actually really working, I can tell you one thing, right? Let me rebuild first. I'm rebuilding, okay? I'm rebuilding, right? No errors, no errors. So if this is really working, do you know what is the consequences, right? Definitely the code that calls up. Notice that right now I'm actually opening up the code behind file of the adm at staff.aspx, right? If I call this method, there should be no problem. The database binding to the drop down link should be working. So I'll just test the web form and start praying, right? Start praying. Notice that I'm actually notice that yes, it is working. Oh my god, one time action. One time action. Okay, give some credit, right? Normally I have some phobia with Microsoft website because they really gave a lot of information. I know their intention. They tried to give complete information and they expect us that we have gone through proper English education to summarize for the important points. Okay, so I have to give credit to this site, right? And I'm actually going to put it inside here. So thank you to this location. This is where I've referred to, right? This is my reference. Okay, this is my reference. Okay, right? So it has worked, but is this enough? Right, so in other words, that what is the advantage of having this one? I tell you what is the advantage of having this one. Means that I just need these 3 lines. I copy it and I go to my C.5 manager. C.5 manager has one important method called add1staff. It has its own connection string here. And what am I going to do? I'm just going to paste it down here, right? And then what is going to happen for the connection string for this part? It is going to be bye-bye, and it is going to be connection string dot connection string. That's it, right? Then after that, I'm going to save it and I'm going to rebuild. And what is my next testing? I must test. How am I going to test? Test using the web form. So this time I'm going to select expand department, and this one I'm just put Billy and born on the February of year 2000, for example. Then I'm going to click save. If there's no problem, I should be able to still able to go and see my new record inside the staff table. Right click, edit top 200 rows, refresh. Notice that Billy is created here and the value is 10 here. Is it correct? 10? Yes. Or I can use this SQL to check. Notice that Billy X-Men, right? So have I managed to centralize all my connection string information inside the Web.Config file? What have I done? I've added a connection string. Then I slowly moved to the C department manager, focus on the getAllDepartmentData method. And did I cook up all these code here? No, I didn't. Right, now what is the purpose of this code here? The purpose of this code here is to ask this variable. I'm asking this variable root Web.Config. I'm asking this variable to represent Web.Config. Yes, that is the purpose. right? That is the purpose. So I'm asking, what am I doing? I am asking root Web.Config to represent the Web.Config file so that I can use it to read out information later. So in order to get this variable to represent Web.Config file, I need to use this class, the configuration class that belongs to the configuration, the system.configuration namespace. Okay, right now, then after that, notice that I created another variable. Right, this variable is called ConnectionString, and it is derived from the class called ConnectionString settings that belongs to the system.configuration namespace. If I'm lazy to type all this, I can always just cut this and then just put using here, using like that. This another way. So notice that, oh, remember to get rid of the dot. So by using here, then I just directly use configuration can. So what about this one? Can I delete now? Yes, I can. Okay, now what is this? This one is a const string. Okay, this one is a const string, and it is supposed to go and store as many connection string as possible. So right now you notice that I'm asking the variable that is right now representing Web.Config to read out a connection string information. Of course, the root Web.Config, this variable will say, okay, but I got how many? I got how many inside? I got two, man. Give me a name. Have I provided him a name? Yes. That's why I read it out and I store it inside the const string variable that have been declared inside here, right? Notice that this is how I declare it. Okay. So after I've got it working, what am I going to do? You see, I access the connection string property that belongs to the const string. I assign it into the connection string property that belongs to the connection object. That's why it will still be able to open an active connection to the database. Okay. So what is the purpose of this? In the future, if you share your project to your friend, you just ask your friend to go and you just need to go and change the connection string here. Your project can execute already. Of course, you must ask your friend that make sure that you got a database prepared, and what is the name of the database? It's called web_database. Okay, now let us tidy up the code for the C staff manager as well. Right, C staff manager, notice that this is the same set of the code, and what am I going to do? I just need to go and cut this one. Okay, maybe I'll just delete away this one, right? And then I'll just use the using keyword here, using, right? So notice that by using the namespace declaration here, I cut down a lot of coding effort. Okay, so what is the purpose of root Web.Config? Come on, what is the purpose? To represent Web.Config. What is the purpose of const string? Is to what? Well, I'm going to ask this root Web.Config to read out the connection string by providing a valid connection string name. You will read out, but need to store somewhere, right? So I store it inside this variable const string, but I cannot declare it as a string variable. It won't work. Okay, right? It won't work, right? It won't work. See, complain already, right? It won't work. Okay, you need a special variable called connection string settings. Okay, then the rest of the code is simple. So this is how I consolidate. So in the future, you just need to modify the connection string information here. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.